And welcome to the meeting of the Raynham Board of Selectmen on this date, Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021. We'd just like to announce that pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and his subsequent order limiting the number of people who may be in attendance in one location, this meeting of the Raynham Board of Selectmen is being conducted with the public meeting members, the members of the Board of Selectmen, in attendance here at Veterans Memorial Town Hall at 558 South Main Street, and with the public invited to join the meeting remotely, either by watching the live broadcast of the Raynham on the Raynham Channel, by using the GoToMeeting app, or by calling in using the access numbers listed on the agenda. Also, just announce that in accordance also with the regulations, that in addition to our Board of Selectmen, we have Vice Chairman Joe Pacheco, Selectman Dick Shavo, and also our Town Administrator Graham Waters, and our Police Chief James Donovan here with us this evening. And we are returning from executive session with nothing to report at this time, and this meeting is being recorded. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And I'm looking for a motion to accept as printed the minutes for the last Board of Selectmen's meeting held on January 19th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pacheco, seconded by Mr. Shavo, and all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. There's a little misprint. We're a year behind on the agenda there, January 12th, 2020. I thought I got a moment of deja vu there. Anyway, next we have department heads, and as I mentioned, we have our police chief with us, Chief Donovan.
Evening, very brief tonight. Police Department logged 1,779 calls in the month of January. 476 of those calls came via 911. There were 61 people booked. Significant events were actually kind of down, but the most significant thing probably was Matt Tanis and Chief Lasivita did yeoman's work to get the police department and the fire department vaccinated. They worked with Bridgewater hand in hand. They were able to do it seamlessly right here in town. The vast majority of our employees opted to do it. Really the only ones that didn't are the ones that just recently had it. Unfortunately, we do have 2 police officers that currently have it, Raynham police officers, and one of our dispatchers that are out. But Matt and Chief Lasivita did an excellent job of setting that up, and their crew, and it really worked well. Hopefully it works well on the second shot as well. That's all I have.
Excellent, Chief. All right, thank you very much. Any questions for the Chief, Mr. Pacheco?
No, thank you. I'm happy to hear that the vaccination process went smoothly and that the people who wanted it within the departments were able to get it.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Shavo?
None, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chief, and again, thank you and all the members of your department for keeping us all safe. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next, we have also Liz Mora, our Director of the Council on Aging. Liz, are you with us?
Hi, I'm here.
Hi, Liz.
Madam Chairman.
How are
And I'd
you?
like to update you on a couple of things.
Please, go right ahead.
First of all, I'd like to tell you about our Aarp Tax Appointment. They filled up in 2 days, which is a record for us. Clients are not allowed in the building. They give their documents to the tax preparer at the side door to the large room of the senior center, where the tax preparer is alone and works on the documents. A second tax preparer is sequestered in the card room, where he will work isolated. He has a pre-existing condition, and he has asked that he be sequestered alone, which we are granting. And the clients return the next day to authorize their return, which will be electronically filed. And we're basically, the AARP has been very stringent in their precautions because of COVID, including not allowing any of their tax preparers to have face-to-face appointments with clients. And we're hoping that tax season is extended by the IRS, so the AARP will consider having more appointments available to the public. Our tax preparation season generally starts in February, but this year, owing to COVID, AARP started a month later, and we're starting on March 1st this year. We only have Monday and Tuesday for the signing off, and we're working through April 12th on that. And I just had one other thing I want to talk to you about or update you on, if I may.
Please, go right ahead, Liz.
The Cova Vaccine, since the Commonwealth officially announced age 35 and older can have the vaccine, we have had as many as 125 people a day calling us, trying to find appointments. So what we've done is that we've booked people into Gillette, Bristol Community College, and the Hannaford and Taunton and Middleborough, because we were able to find doses available there, particularly a couple of weeks ago when 12,000 doses were released on a Wednesday, and on Thursday we were able to put a lot of people into places where they could get the vaccine. The seniors who are calling us are those who are not comfortable using the computer, and we're booking their appointments for them and getting confirmations on our computers. We're taking the names and phone numbers of other people and calling them back to assist them in getting appointments. In fact, just before I came on here, I heard a federal report that 1 million doses are hopefully going to be coming out every week throughout the country, and that on February 11th, several more areas in Massachusetts may, CVS being one of them, and Walgreens are expected to have doses available. We're also telling people to be patient because more doses will be coming. This is something we're stressing right now. They'll be coming into the state over the next weeks and months. When the announcement was made about the 75 plus eligibility, it created a panic because people were not aware the number of doses coming into the state were limited into the Commonwealth. They believed they had to get the doses immediately. And we're explaining to people now that this is going to be a long process. It's going to be into the spring and summer, and they will eventually be vaccinated. And I'd like to thank Laurie Cox and Paula Olson in our office. They've been managing the COVID and the tax appointments respectively, and they've done a great job. And we're sort of like gunslingers because we're finding these appointments is basically how fast you can be on the computer. And I should add that the Office of Elder Affairs has informed the COA last week on Zoom meeting that they're preparing a phone number for seniors to call up to sign up. And, going forward, we're hopeful that we can have a COVID vaccine clinic when doses are available here in Raynham. And many of the questions we've been fielding have been about when and where the town will have a clinic. And again, our responses would stress that this is all about doses being available. And we're right now in the process of calming people down, having them realize that it's going to be okay, because there's been a lot of panic we've been sent in, and we're just calming the waters right now every day as we work with it.
Okay. Thank you, Liz.
Are there any questions? Or
that is so important, because I think many seniors were put in a panic, not knowing what to do, and that's unfortunate. So that's a great service you're providing. Mr. Pacheco.
Just one question, Liz. I ask you this every time. Any update on the SAVE program?
Joe, we have had a couple of people apply for it, but again, it's based on whether the department heads have positions. We have reached out to department heads about the SAVE program being available, and it's just based on availability to us of jobs that we can have people, we can submit people's resumes to department heads to fit them into a job, and so far, I don't know if it's COVID related, it may be. We haven't heard anything from department heads.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Shavo.
None. Thank you, Liz. I think the work that's going on is great. I'm sure the people in town who are looking for the support with regard to the Vaccine appreciate all the work you're doing.
Absolutely. And Liz, I just want to add too, I have a copy of your, bulletin, which is great with lots of information. Can people get this online?
Yes, it's available on our website at the rather long website, so it's probably better that they go on the town's main website and click on Council on Aging instead of me giving a very long address here. But it is available on the webpage, and also we do mail it out to people. And we would ask that if anybody would like to have it mailed to them, just give us a call at 508-824-2740. We'd be more than happy to mail it to you. And we've been receiving calls lately to have it mailed out, so we're certainly happy to do that for you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Liz. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Stay well. Okay, next on, do we have any other department heads, Mr. Waters? No. Okay, so next we have appointment, Cultural Council, Suzanne Lopes, and we have here a letter of recommendation from Dr. Lee Kozak, who's the treasurer of the Raynham Cultural Council. It says, I am writing to nominate Suzanne Lopes to the Raynham Cultural Council. Suzanne is a lifelong and very active Raynham resident. In addition, her mother, Judy Naz, was a longtime and sorely missed member of our council. In talking with Suzanne, it is obvious that she shares our council's vision to supporting and promoting arts and science in our great town, and also a letter from Suzanne Lopes indicating that she would like to be appointed to
Motion to appoint.
Motion by Mr. Pacheco, second by Mr. Shavo. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Thank you. And thank you to Suzanne Lopes for willing to serve. Next, we have no public hearings. Completion of old or continuing business, discussion and action. Service contract with MX Consulting Services Incorporated. Mr. Waters, do you want to introduce this?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. After being tabled for a long time, finally got together with the police chief or fire chief, MX Consulting, and our town council to review the contract and to make sure everybody was on the same page and in agreement. We had a conference call, I believe it was the week before last, and hammered out the language. All parties are satisfied with the agreement. I've brought it before the board for review and discussion. It is a 2-year contract effective December 23rd, 2020, and going through 2022. There are some items I'd like to point out to the board. The term of the contract on page 3, it allows us to terminate the agreement for any reason whatsoever, or either party, which gives us an opportunity a year from now, if we're unsatisfied, we can exit the contract, as well as specifying that the fact that for the fire department, any interruptions of services in the normal course of providing said services will not delay in or interfere with dispatch emergency calls to or from the fire department and the fire department's response to those calls. So, Madam Chair, I recommend to the board that you approve this agreement. Again, it's been vetted by legal. It's been signed off by the fire department, and I'm okay with it, and MX is okay with it.
Thank you. Mr. Waters, any under discussion?
Yeah, Madam
Mr.
Chair.
Pacheco.
Thank you. I can't support it as is. One of the things that I had asked for to be removed a while ago is still in there, specifically page 3, bullet 3, the $19,760 in year 1 for on-site support, and it's further referenced on page 11. It would be Wednesdays from 12:30 to 4:30. My argument then is my argument now. I don't know that we have the need. The justification that the two of you, my colleagues, gave in part for bringing on MX in the past was their close proximity and large staffing availability, and I think those two things in and of itself don't necessitate the taxpayers being billed $20,000 in the first year and over $20,000 in year 2, because there's a built-in increase clause in this contract. Otherwise, I'm fine with it. I'm happy to see the opt-out, but again, to commit $20,000 a year to something I don't know that we need right now, just to me doesn't make sense.
I'll ask Mr. Waters, if this were to be approved, eliminating what Mr. Pacheco has just outlined, would that be an issue?
It would be, in the fact that if they were to come on site to address our needs. So right now, any emergency issues, they respond to right away, and then any routine maintenance, such as new equipment setup, they come on the once a week to deal with. So I would assume that if the board wanted to eliminate this section, they would just go to an hour-by-hour basis and charge the town as such, which might end up being more expensive. I don't know. I will point out that in the Schedule of Services Agreement attachment that they have, it does say adjustments, changes, cancellations, or additional hours can be made with 30 days notice, billable quarterly in advance, and that it will be reviewed after 3 months to determine if any adjustments need to be made either by MX Consulting Services or by the town of Raynham. So if we find that as we go along that we need to adjust the number of hours that they're on site, if we need to change it from 4 to 2 or just 1 hour as they get caught up on the backlog of work, that can be adjusted. And I fully intend to stay on top of MX. I know as our old equipment gets taken offline, I will be on top of them to take it off the coverage, much like we do with our insurance company. Any old equipment that is no longer used, we can call up the insurance company to take off the schedule of equipment that is covered. But if the board so feels that they want to take this off, we can, and I'll see what the consequences are. And if it's more expensive in the long run, I can bring that back to the board's attention.
Okay. We do not have a motion on the floor at this point. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I have a question, if I may, for the discussion. So let me understand the math here. I don't have my cell phone, so I'm at a loss. That $19,000 a year buys how many hours a week?
So it's 4 hours a week for 52 weeks.
So that's a couple hundred hours. And if you divide 200 hours into 19,000, what is that?
200 hours into
Yeah, 200 hours, yeah. You're buying 200 hours and the cost is 19,000.
In the contract, it says 95 for the first year, and then the second year, 115. Is that what you're asking, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, so in other words,
Right.
that the math is $95 an hour?
Yes.
So if we, in other words, if we don't do the fixed 200 hours a year, we call them as necessary, and we could be calling them for more or less, we don't know. And I don't think the $95 an hour is out of line, that's for sure. I mean, we were just paying $75 an hour for a part-time person, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know that it's that far, that it's that far out of line. I mean, we could wind up paying more or less. What if we needed 5 hours a week? How does that work?
We would just get in touch with them and say we need to up the amount that our demand on services is greater than the need. And for example, this past Wednesday when they were here, they spent an hour here and then they headed over to the fire department for a couple hours. And so this is not only just town hall, but it's the highway department, it's Parks and Rec, it's the senior center, and the fire department. But again, it does allow it to be adjusted, so if it needs to go up to 5 hours, that there's a need, then they'll let us know that, hey, the 4 hours on site is not enough, that the demand between all the departments is great, so we need to increase the number of hours. If it's too few, and usually you get an indication of, hey, is there any work to do this week for the town? That might warrant say, hey, well, it's 4 hours too many, can we cut it back to 3 hours or 2 hours?
Okay, technically, my Robert's Rules of Order is screaming in my ear because we don't have a motion on the floor. Could we just have a motion for discussion, either to approve as is or with an amendment?
I would approve with section 3 on page 3 being stricken, and again, the logic is we're paying 4 hours a week whether we use it or not, and if we go over 4 hours we pay extra, but if we go under we're not getting any rebates or discounts. And so I think that's why, at least at the beginning, we go hourly and can make a determination at that point if it needs to be adjusted. But I mean, to me, and people might say I'm crazy, but to commit $20,000 to something we don't know we need right now just does not make sense.
Okay. So your motion is to approve it, but with that section eliminated.
Correct.
Second for discussion, Mr.
Second
Shervo?
for discussion,
Okay,
yeah.
discussion.
So, do we have any idea how many hours a week the previous IT person was spending here?
We don't know.
We have no idea, so we have no baseline by which to gauge the reasonableness of this.
And part of it too, Mr. Shivo, is he billed just on what he did. There's already sections in here that they're going to be doing and billing us for. This is exclusive to on-site support. So they're billing us for stuff that the former IT person did and billed us for hourly in bulk. This is a separate section over and above, and that's more so why I object to it. Because some of the stuff that we're paying for with the previous person, we're already paying for in this contract.
So, having said that, I will second the motion as presented by Mr. Pacheco.
I would assume, as Mr. Waters said, if we find out, we need to adjust it going forward, we could do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Any additional discussion?
None.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
The chair votes aye, unanimous, it is approved. Okay, next we have General Code Project Expansion, AG record scanning, and review of annual town reports. Mr. Waters.
Sure, give me 1 second, please. So the board had asked for looking into the cost to have General Code expand the current project, and I believe our town clerk also mentioned that she would look into having a third-party contractor come in and scan the Attorney General records that she has in her office to help facilitate that expansion of the project. So I presented the board earlier with two estimates, one from a company called Better Way Printing, which is what the town clerk reached out to receive a quote on. That amount was $2,000 and $2,002.50. That was for scanning 75 years of Attorney General bylaw changes and having those electronically on file. That's actually a twofold benefit. It not only helps this project, but it also helps the clerk's office in clearing out some paperwork and just having those files electronically moving forward. And then the second portion was a estimate for $3,200 to $3,800 to send copies of the annual town meeting reports to the General Code Company to look through, pick out individual years where bylaws were enacted and may not have been incorporated in our written document, to basically look for any things that fell through the cracks. And together, those would present a total of around $5,800. So as I described to the board in my weekly report, the original project for the General Code review of the bylaws was approximately $9,900, which we pulled out of the gaming money account that we have available. Moving forward, I couldn't tell you what the current balance of that account is right now. I know we also use that account for funding some of the engineering costs for the public safety building. We might have enough to cover the additional $6,000 of approximate cost for this expansion. But if not, we can always go and put an article on the warrant for the upcoming town meeting. That is all of it in a nutshell. I don't know if, I don't believe our town clerk or our moderator is on the line, who were also instrumental in assisting getting these numbers together.
Okay. All right, Mr. Pacheco?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think one of the other options, especially if the gaming fund is exhausted, when we were looking at the budget last week, I noticed there haven't been any drawdowns to our reserve account at this time, where this is an existing budget expenditure and a line item that's been approved, where this isn't a project that's new or not known to people. I think it would be absolutely appropriate to utilize those funds where it's only about $5,000, and I think it would be to the benefit of the town to get moving on this where we have these bids. And so if you're amenable to it, I'd motion to approve and authorize the use of the reserve funds to cover anything that is not covered by the gaming account.
Okay, very good. Second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
None.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Thank you. Okay, next we have new business. Master plan update. Jed Cornock from Serpad is joining us, I believe. Jed, are you with us?
I am, Madam Chair. Thank you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you fine. Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm just going to share my screen. I have a very short presentation. Can you folks see that?
Yep.
Sure.
Yes.
Excellent. So once again, for the record, my name is Jed Cornock, Principal Comprehensive Planner with Serpad. I'm here tonight to give you a quick update about the master plan and how it's going and where we're headed. And I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. For full disclosure and for complete transparency, this presentation that you see here was provided to the Master Plan Committee just about a week ago, where we talked about those very topics, where we've been, where we're going, and we started planning out workshop number 3, which I'll get to in just a second. So really quickly from the beginning, your master plan project is going to last 2 years. We've already covered 2 workshops. As you can see on the slide, there are a total of 5. We've done workshop number 1, which was discovery, like all about existing conditions and big picture vision. We handled workshop number 2, which was in November. We talked about land use, housing, and economic development. So as I mentioned, we're gearing up for workshop number 3, which will talk about open space and recreation and natural cultural resources. And then we'll end with workshop 4 and 5, as you can see on the screen. Workshop 4, we're planning sometime in the early summertime, and workshop number 5 will be probably in the fall time. So at the end of each one of the workshops, we produce a very quick and easy to read summary document. What you're seeing on the slide here is the summary from workshop number 2. The first page on the left-hand side of the slide shows just as a very quick summary of when we had the meeting and some of the topics that we covered. What we're trying to do, because we're in COVID currently, is really reach out to that social media platform or platforms, as you can see on the slide, and get comments from that happening as well, and not just rely on the Zoom or other avenues. And then on the right-hand side of the slide, you can see the interactive exercise that we worked with folks who attended each one of the meetings. And it's a really cool exercise. It's an interactive map where folks can just click on the map and pick an icon which represents each one of the chapters in the plan itself. And you can see them on the bottom. They're economic development, land use, housing, the alike. And they can provide comments right on that interactive map. The really interesting part of it, too, is that folks can come in afterwards and make comments on other people's comments. So it's a crowdsourcing activity. As you can see, we had a total of 39 points provided, but then 107 interactions on each, on all of those points. So the word's getting out, people were engaged in this exercise. So it was really interesting. One of the things that I just want to pause here and sort of make aware to everyone is that as we make our way through this master plan effort, even though the workshops are element specific or chapter specific, we cover all of the components of the master plan each time that we meet the public. So I encourage anyone who's listening tonight or any of you in the audience that if you're interested in coming to these events, but you may think, oh, it's more about something else, that's not true. We'll take any comment that you have. We are your secretaries. We're supposed to be listening and writing the plan for you. So at any time, you can share your opinions with us. So as part of the Master Plan Committee meeting, we wanted to give them a sense for how the plan will be structured moving forward. And here are some draft goals and strategies that we've come up with thus far. Again, preliminary information. The black text next to the land use icon indicates that it's a main theme. It's something that we've been hearing more and more as we make our way through this project. And it really has to deal with that, as you can see, maintaining a small town character, creating connected neighborhoods, etc. And then what we wanted to try and give them an idea is, all right, so how does the goal fit within that main theme? And then what are some strategies that could be provided to achieve that goal? And so really quickly, I won't go through all of it unless you have questions here. But this whole idea of focusing efforts to developing a town center is something that was included in your previous master plan. It's possibilities that you may want to consider moving forward. And two of those strategies would be, basic ideas, creating zoning that would encourage different types of development, and then design guidelines associated with that zoning to make sure that the new development matches the character of that surrounding neighborhood. So really quickly, I'll just highlight housing, and in the next slide, discuss economic development. Again, the whole idea around housing is creating additional stock that would allow for the senior population to age in place. That's an issue in many communities in our region. And one of the ways you do that is you're creating more subsidized affordable housing. And the strategy associated with that is updating the town's housing production plan, which is dated 2010. Those generally last, I believe, for about 5 years. And so that's something that the town is behind the ball a little bit in updating. So we would, advocate or at least put that strategy in for the committee and the public to consider moving forward. And then lastly, economic development. What we've been hearing is, focusing more on redevelopment opportunities rather than, clear cutting and creating new big box. So there's been a lot of conversation around, as you may imagine, the Raynham dog track. And so one of the strategies might be considering Chapter 43D, which is expedited permitting. And then another goal for -3, as you can see, is just identifying or focusing efforts on those designated priority development areas. And so, you could enhance the existing economic development guide, and then making sure that your sewer capacity stays where it is. So I'm going to, this slide we had as part of the presentation because we wanted to talk about scheduling. And so at this point, I'm going to say we're pleased to announce that we have 2 of the workshops, or for the workshop we have 2 Zoom events, I should say. So we are going to have the first event on March 1st and the second event on March 10th. And they're identical in nature. We want to make sure that everyone's clear on that. It'll be the same content. The only difference is we want to provide 2 opportunities for people to join the discussion in the event that they have a conflict on one of those evenings. But as I said before, it really isn't all about Zoom meetings. It's about just reaching out to us individually with comments. And so if you can see on the bottom of this slide on the screen, we have a dedicated email address, we have a telephone number, and I'm going to hit upon the website. And so those are avenues that folks can send in their comments and communicate with us as well. So, really quickly, once again, March 1st and March 10th, 6 p.m. It's all via Zoom. All of that information currently is on our Facebook page, and we'll be announcing it on our website very soon. So part of the event will include, obviously, a Zoom presentation. We'll have a variety of poll questions that we'll be asking participants to participate with. And then just those 2 interactive exercises. So we'll continue that point of interest mapping exercise throughout the entire master plan effort. But this time, when we start talking about cultural and natural cultural resources, we want to know more about what are some of the cultural events and sites within town that are special to Raynham residents. And so that'll be a SurveyMonkey type interactive online survey. So we'll not only ask folks to participate while they're in the meeting, but we'll also be sending it out via Facebook, via email, any way we can get the word out. We're going to be sending that out to folks so they can participate when they have time to do so. And then lastly, I just want to touch upon really quickly, in fact, I think I may have skipped the slide, but yeah, maybe I'll go back. I apologize. Grab this one, because this one's really important. Our project webpage is serpent.org/Raynham-master-plan. Easiest way to do it is just to Google Raynham Master Plan and make sure you have Serpent at the end. It should bring you right to this page. We've got a variety of different ways folks can participate. They can fill out a comment card, they can fill out a survey, as you can see on the screen. They can link to the project Facebook page as well as the Instagram page. A lot of different ways that they can interact with us. Importantly, we're going to be sending out some more information about the public survey. We've got just about over 200 results thus far, but we really want to boost that leading up to the next workshop. And I really want to thank Mike King and Bob Iafredi for helping us with the mailer on the bottom left of the screen, right here. So it's just something that will come in the motor vehicle excise tax bill to every address that they're mailing it out to. Really simple, easy way to get in touch with us. Know what the webpage address is, they can fill out a survey. Just by using your cell phone and just scanning that QR code, it'll bring you right to the survey. So with that, I just want to close and be available for any questions that you might have. Again, just make mention of the project webpage. Thanks to folks in the town who we've been working with very closely. And just mention that it's not just myself that's Serpent. It's also, as you can see, with Beth and Knowledge, she's co-lead on this project. So we're both available anytime to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jed. Excellent. Any questions, Mr. Pacheco?
No questions. Appreciate the presentation and the work on the project.
Okay, Mr. Chavot.
Same.
Okay, terrific. All right, Jed, thank you very much for the presentation and all of the outreach efforts, and hopefully you get a good turnout for the next workshop.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Okay, next on our agenda, we have Sursage 25-year reauthorization. Mr. Waters.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a reauthorization for the intermunicipal agreement for the Southeast Regional Services Group. To give you a brief overview, it first started in 1996. Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40, Section 4A limits the term of intermunicipal agreements to 25 years, including extensions. So this is coming due, and Sursage has asked that the board pass a motion to renew the IMA, and there's a motion, I believe, included in the document at the bottom paragraph, beginning with "I move" for the board.
Sure.
And happy to answer any questions.
Okay, we're looking for a motion
Yep.
that the board vote to, Mr. Pacheco?
I move that the board vote to reauthorize and amend the intermunicipal agreement that created the Southeastern Regional Services Group so as to extend the term of that agreement for a period of 25 years from, I would say, February 2nd, because that's today, subject to any rights of termination or withdrawal, with all other terms of the original agreement remaining in place without change, and to authorize the board to execute any documents necessary to effectuate the purposes of this vote.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Pacheco, second by
Second
Mr.
the
Chavot.
motion. Second.
Any discussion?
None.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is a vote. Thank you. So voted. Next, we have credit card policy and establishment of a town credit card. Mr. Waters.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In your packets, number 8C, you have a memo that reiterates some of the items I've presented to you previously in weekly reports. The interim town accountant has recommended that the town establish a credit card account for purchases that can only be made with a credit card, often online purchases. He has made this recommendation to prevent any violations of state conflict of interest law. The use of personal credit cards can be beneficial to the cardholder, i.e. travel benefits, points, etc. The Attorney General and Inspector General have weighed in on the subject, and this constitutes private gain for public benefit, which violates the Massachusetts conflict of interest law at a minimum. Another issue that brought up with personal credit card purchases reimbursed by the town is tax reporting. By removing the commercial nature of the transaction, there would be no 1099 reporting. But had the purchase been from someone required to receive a 1099, that wouldn't occur, as the employee has no tax reporting responsibilities. A credit card use policy, which I've attached a draft for the board to consider, should be established by the board if it were to move forward with this recommendation. this is something that can be completed quickly between the treasurer collector, the interim town accountant, and myself.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Waters. Mr. Pacheco?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I would like us for have some time to take this under advisement, in part because one of the things I would like to see in a proposal is who might be eligible to get a credit card. As it stands right now, because it doesn't stipulate anybody in town, including our temporary or seasonal employees, could technically speaking use that. I can't tell you how many times I've seen stories over the years where a town employee has access to a credit card and the funds are misused. Obviously, I would hope and expect that that wouldn't be the case here, but it's our obligation to do due diligence. So what I would like to see is a proposal or a few options to outline who should have access to it, whether it's one employee per department, whether it's 2 or 3 people in the whole town. I don't know, but we can find out what best practices are, I think, and go from there.
Okay, so motion to table?
Yes.
Second, Mr. Schaeffer?
Discussion, please. As I understood the presentation, that the credit card was to be used by the town administrator. Did I misunderstand that?
Yes, so the credit card purchases would be, the town credit card would be used by where the town couldn't issue a PO or write a or pay an invoice.
But what I, correct me if I'm wrong, what I thought you said was up until now, these purchases were made with your credit card. Is that what you said?
Some purchases, yes. I've, like the advertisements for the human resources position and other job advertisements, I've used my credit card and got reimbursed by the town. And I believe previously maybe other department heads have done the same as well.
So to Mr. Pacheco, Selectman Pacheco's point, is it your proposal that this card be used by other people beside you?
Yes, that would be my assumption.
Okay, then I second Mr. Pacheco's motion.
Okay, so we'll table that, and maybe individually, if we have concerns, to communicate with our town administrator. Okay, motion to table. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So next we have our town library transition process, and I believe we have a couple people online wanting to speak to us about it. I believe Mr. John Donahue is a member of the Board of Trustees, Eden Ferguson, our Raynham Library Director, and Lee Kozak from the Board of Trustees as well. Welcome. Whoever wants to go first, please.
Yeah, I'll start it off, Madam Chair, and thank you for having us. We'll try to be brief. I know you've got a very busy agenda tonight, and thank you for pushing through the bylaw, continuing to support the bylaw project. That's very helpful. So a couple weeks ago, we gathered a small group of folks that were impacted by the merging of the library into the town infrastructure to start to think about what it looks like on day one when that transition is actually accomplished. We didn't want to wait till the very last minute and then find out that we had, several months worth of work. So we thought it would be best if we came in and shared with you our findings to date, because there are a few things that we're going to need your help with, your cooperation on, and we'll move through them quickly. There's probably 5 or 6, but just before I do that, the folks that have been working on this are Town Administrator Waters, Treasurer Collector King, Library Director Ferguson, Library Chair Trustee Dr. Lee Kozak, and the Chair of the Finance Committee, Gil Aligi, and myself. So we're gonna just real quickly move through the list of items that we need to bring to your attention, and I believe we'll start with Dr. Kozak.
Good evening. Thanks for having us. Should we start with the Memorandum of Understanding? I thought we were going to start there, since that's the priority.
Sure.
That would be Graham.
Yeah, Graham,
Sure.
do you want to start with the MOA?
So the board has a copy of a draft MOA that has been put forward by the library town attorney, has been reviewed by our town attorney. The library made a small change at the bottom of the MOA to add language to provide free public library material services and programs to the town of Raynham. There's no objection by the town attorney to the amendment of the language. So it is for the board to consider signing and voting in favor of this MOU, and having I can sign it on behalf of the board after a vote.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Waters. Does the board want to act on this evening or table this?
I have no issues with it if Ted has signed off. I know there was a question as to whether with the changes we had to do something else, and Ted did tell me he didn't feel like we had to, so I'd motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Pacheco to approve, second by Mr. Shavo.
Yep.
Any further discussion?
None.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And Mr. Pacheco?
Aye.
And Mr. Shavo, chair
Aye.
votes aye. It is unanimous. You have that vote.
Great, thank you. That starts the ball rolling officially, and we'll get Dr. Kozak to sign that. Graham, if you could possibly facilitate the signatures on that.
Yep.
So now reverting back to Dr. Kozak.
Okay, that's great, thanks. So on that note, our attorney is ready to move forward with our dissolution complaint package to be completed and sent over to the Attorney General's office for review, and it actually has to go in front of the Supreme Court. We don't know the time frame. We don't know the delay that may be caused by COVID. Unfortunately, they're not giving us any sort of idea if there will be, what kind of delay there will be, or if there will be. We're hoping we'll get a better sense once this paperwork is into the Attorney General's office, which will hopefully be within the next 10 to 14 days, now that we have signing on the MOU. And that's where we stand.
Okay, very good.
In terms of dissolving the nonprofit.
Okay.
Any questions?
Any questions for Dr. Kozak? I see none. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll go to Director Ferguson.
Thank you. First of all, can you hear me?
We can hear you fine, Eden. Go right ahead.
Okay, good. Because I have a very poor connection, so I apologize for that. I wanted to talk tonight about two issues that will need to be resolved. The first one is, I believe, a bylaw establishing a library board of trustees. I hope you have the example that I have offered you before you now. I'm going to go through it very quickly. If you have questions, please ask. The Board of Selectmen shall appoint a library board of trustees. This board can either be appointed or it can be voted on by the town. So that would be a choice for you to make. Here I have simply put that you would appoint the board. And this is set forth in the Massachusetts general laws. Then I detail the responsibilities of the board. They're basically three: to advise the library director, to make policies regarding the program, services, and collection, and to hire and evaluate a qualified library director. The final responsibility is something that the town may wish to assume. Many communities do that. Many communities also give that responsibility to the Board of Trustees. So that would be a decision that you would need to make. The board would be composed of a number of people divisible by 3. So I have put 9 members. That could be 3, 6, 12, 15, whatever you feel would be needed. They would be appointed for a 3-year term and serve only 2 consecutive terms, and there would be no compensation. The rest of it is just boilerplate, vacancy appointments, and so forth. So it's fairly simple and straightforward, but there are some awesome issues that would need to be decided. Any questions about that?
Okay, any questions, Mr. Pacheco?
Are you looking for a vote tonight on this, Eden?
I'm sorry, repeat?
Are you looking for a vote on this evening?
No, I'm not. I think what I want to draw your attention to is that this is just one of many tasks that need to be worked on. So if you want to take your time, think about it. It's here, it's ready to go whenever you are.
Okay. All right, Mr. Shavo, any questions?
I would suggest that the only deadline we might have on that particular aspect is we would need to get that bylaw written in time for the deadline for the warrant. So that's sort of if there is a deadline, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
The other issue that I wanted to bring to your attention tonight was how to bring the library employees into the town community. And there are, as I understand it, several different ways. One of them would be union, one of them would be contract, one of them would be at will. My concern, and I think the concern of the board, is that we want to protect the employees, especially those employees who have devoted 10, 15, and 20 years of service to this community. We want to protect their benefits. So this is going to be something that needs to be given considerable thought. Any comments?
Madam Chair, this is something that I've spoken with town council on, and I thought we had formally asked him to do it, but he said he never got that directive. But in my research, I've seen it go a few ways. I've seen existing employees automatically get jobs, and I've seen them have to apply for jobs. And I think before we can figure out in what status they come to us in, we have to figure out what the process is to fill these positions, because they're going from essentially being employees of a private entity to being town employees. And more particularly, if they were to become union employees, we have CBA agreements that allow for internal filling and so on and so forth. So what my suggestion to the board would be, our board, is that we first have both town council and labor council look into what the legal process needs to be to fill the positions, and also understand what the staffing levels are going to be at the library. As it's becoming a town department, I think we have to have a review of all of that stuff to understand the intricacies of it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pacheco. Mr. Shavo?
Well, certainly all of that is important, but I would also add a perspective that I hope that as we approach this, that these individuals become employees of the town. That ought to be our goal. As Eden has said, they've worked there for many years. The library is being incorporated into the town, so should the employees. So I believe the board should find the legal counsel that will enable us to do that.
Okay. All right. Do we want to make a motion at this point to refer this?
I would motion.
Okay, so Mr. Pacheco's making a motion to refer it to Labor Council and Town Council for input. Second, Mr. Shavo?
Yeah.
Any discussion on that?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Okay, Eden?
If that could be done in an expedited manner,
Sure.
I think we've talked a lot about this in the working group, and if there's anything that concerns us about this merger, that is the primary concern we have, is that this could take, Joe, to your point exactly, there are a lot of moving parts in onboarding, half a dozen employees, and how does it work, what does it look like, how do we protect them, how do they maintain the seniority, the current level of benefits. So if there's any way when we do contact town council, both Attorney Emerson and Attorney Peetnick, and certainly the trustees council would be there for that conversation as well. If there's any way to expedite that would be very much appreciated.
Okay, very good. We will include that in our referral to Attorney Emerson and Attorney Peetnick. Anything else, Mr. Donahue?
Eden, does that complete your section, Eden? We have one more section if it does.
No, I'm finished. Thank you.
The last thing is there will be a real estate transaction here. We anticipate it being a non-financial transaction, but a transaction nonetheless. And I know Graham has had a couple of to-dos. Graham, if you could update the board,
Sure.
perhaps get some direction from them.
What my understanding from the group is, and from the attorney that is consulting the Board of Trustees for the library is that a title search has to be done before the property can be conveyed over to the town. We have an excellent title search attorney, Arthur Cote, who does a lot of our title work already. It would be quick and painless for us to do a search on the deed. There is a copy of a transcript of the deed for the library that is already in your packets for you for informational purposes.
Thank you, Mr. Waters. Do we want to make a motion to refer it to Mr. Cote to do that search?
I'd motion to approve, but I'd also, at the same time, as we're looking to essentially acquire an asset, have Mr. Waters reach out to our insurer as well, because that would be something that they would have to cover for us. So as that's going through, I think we should do the due diligence with that.
Okay, and that is a motion. Second,
Second.
Mr. Shavo, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted.
And I think the last thing that we would ask the board to consider would be to identify your real estate attorney that will help with that transaction. If that's Attorney Peetnick, I'm not sure, I'm not familiar with whether or not he does real estate, but the sooner that our attorney, the library attorney gets put in contact with the attorney that will be representing the town on the real estate transaction, the better will be.
I mean, I know Attorney Peetnick's handled stuff for us in the past, and where he's our lead on this, I would say we just keep it with him.
Okay, we can, if he doesn't do that, he could perhaps recommend someone.
Yes, yep.
Okay. All right, so we'll refer that to Attorney Peetnick as well. Motion, Mr.
Yes.
Pacheco, second, Mr. Shavo. Any discussion? All in favor? So voted. All right.
And the last thing I have, Matt, I'm sorry, this is truly the last thing I have.
That's okay.
There are two other folks on the call, Treasurer Collector King and Chair of the Finance Committee, Amici. Just so the board knows that there is work going on behind the scenes with regards to when this merger takes place, what do the finances look like, and I know Mike has already been talking with Eden about setting up certain accounts to make sure that the tracking of expenses is done appropriately, and I know Gil has already verbalized some thoughts around the process of building next year's budget for the library and what that looks like. So even though we don't have a to-do on that tonight for you guys, just feel comfortable that there is that aspect going on behind the scenes.
Thank you, Mr. Donahue. We knew this would be a huge undertaking, and obviously you're making some great progress, and we appreciate it. Anything else?
We'll be back with an update when we have something to update.
Excellent. All right, thank you, John. Thank you to everybody involved in that. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Eden, and everyone online relative to that. Okay, very good. So we made some good progress on that. And next on our agenda here is Town Administrator's Report. Mr. Waters.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just give me 1 second here. Where am I? Ongoing business includes the HR position has been advertised on the Massachusetts Municipal Association website, job board, the town website, and an organization known as IPMA HR, which is a public administrator's HR job board, as well as Indeed.com. So that has been advertised and applications are coming in. The search committee has concluded its search process, and finalists will be brought before the board for the town accountant position next week on the 9th of February for the board to interview and ask questions of. The board will be getting background information on the applicants in the near future. The town audit RFP has been posted and published, and direct solicitations were mailed out to 5 Massachusetts licensed auditing firms as well. And then finally, with the building planning conservation permitting clerk, the search committee had 2 finalists for this position, both turned down job offers. The position will be re-advertised and another search conducted. And upcoming business includes the next regularly scheduled Selectmen's meeting on Tuesday, February 9th at 7 p.m. right here in the Don McKinnon Meeting Room of Town Hall. The public will be able to participate via the GoToMeeting platform or by watching the Raynham Channel on Verizon, Comcast, or recording posted later on YouTube. That is all I have, Madam Chair, unless there's any questions or comments by the board.
Thank you, Mr. Waters.
Yes.
Mr. Pacheco.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. In speaking with Mr. Waters today, he informed me that the search committee is only going to be advancing one candidate to the board for interviewing for town accountant, and I expressed my concern to him and want to express it to the board. I personally don't think that that is the smart way to go, and it kind of goes back to the comments I made a few weeks ago about the fact that I felt like we were in a not powerful position. But my personal opinion is we should not get one candidate, we should get a minimum of two, and if that requires us going back, reviewing resumes again, having more interviews, I personally think that's what we should do. I think the board deserves to have choices. I think the public deserves to see choices and hear the different opinions and thoughts that are out there, especially with a position of this importance. I think it's important to have differing views, especially also where none of us are accountants, and bringing forward one candidate to me is just not satisfactory.
Unfortunately, it appears that a couple withdrew. Mr. Shavo, do you want to weigh in on that?
Sure, I understand and certainly agree with the point. The issue is, after these many weeks of searching for a candidate, this is where we are, and I'm not sure that another 4 weeks of searching is going to buy us much, but I take Selectman Pacheco's point. I don't know what we're going to be able, as a practical matter, to do to get, candidate 2 or 3 that meets the search committee's criteria. So I think we're at a point where maybe we're not offering what we need to offer to bring the proper candidate. What that is, I have no idea. I think we ought to ask the search committee, what else can we do to bring in a larger supply? I don't know that answer, but I think we should ask the search committee what they think. Maybe it's the amount of money, maybe it's, I don't know. So my motion is, let's go to the search committee and get their input with regard to what the next step should be if we're going to find more than one candidate. Let's ask the search committee what they want.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I would second that for discussion.
Sure.
As long as that means we're not going to have one interview next week, I fully support that, because again, I am not at all supportive of a rush job. It's just not practical or appropriate.
I think what I'm hearing, Mr. Pacheco, too, you're saying is that maybe go back and review those
Yes.
who have applied to
Yes.
see if they have a second choice to bring before us.
Correct.
Because I think
And
we had
to-
said we wanted to.
Absolutely, and I mean, I've never personally supported this in the past, but there are recruiters out there that the town can retain. I am not going to vote for a candidate simply because that's the only candidate that was presented to us. I will not do it.
It's certainly an important position, we know that, for
Madam
sure.
Chair.
So we can ask our search committee to,
We can.
maybe-
The search committee has actually had this conversation about what additional steps. I mean, we've raised the salary offering. We've advertised far and wide across multiple platforms. There's even mentioned but not discussed in depth of hiring a recruiter, as Selectman Pacheco mentioned, and also advertising outside the state. I did post the position on the Rhode Island League of Cities job board, but maybe offering a moving incentive for somebody from out of state, if that's will help get more qualified candidates for us to consider. So
maybe if we could put it on the agenda for next week and maybe ask Mr. Lewis to join us, or if he wants another member of the search committee, so we can discuss those options.
Sure.
And one other
Yes,
thing.
Mr. Shavo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Perhaps we ought to stand back and take a bigger look at this, the need here. And what I mean by that is, if we're not finding an accountant to fill the position, that is to say, some, well thought of prospects, perhaps we ought to rethink what we're looking for. Perhaps we ought to be rethinking whether we should be looking for a finance director. Maybe that, I don't know, I'm not approving that. I'm merely saying that if we're going to go back to the search committee, let's open up our perspective and let's see what other options there are strategically.
I 100%, that's what I was trying to advocate for a few weeks ago, especially where we're posting it over $100,000. I think we maximize the dollars and get a candidate who can do a host of different things. And again, I can't stress this enough, not be pressured into making a decision that's not good for the town.
All right, so Mr. Waters, if you can take that back to our search committee and ask if one or more members can join us next week to discuss all of those issues. All right, thank you. Anything else from Mr. Waters? Selectmen's report, Mr. Pacheco.
Yes, just one quick thing, and I did mention it to the administrator today, but yesterday or Monday, whatever day it was, we closed early for the snowstorm. Notification didn't go up on the website till after the closure, and so at least one resident was impacted coming here. I just want to make sure if we have these types of closings, we talk about it all the time as part of our goals, Madam Chair. Communication, it's not just communication to the board and to our staff, but to our bosses, the taxpayers, and having somebody drive here when it's already been closed is just not acceptable. So I want to make sure that moving forward, that's one of the other things that's checked off on the list.
It was tax day, too.
Yes,
complicating
exactly.
matters.
So there's a lot of moving variables, and the ball was dropped, and we need to do better. So.
Thank you, Mr. Pacheco. Anything, Mr. Chavo?
None, Madam Chair.
Just want to mention that last Wednesday night I attended the Zoom meeting of the Bridgewater Raynham Regional School District. They needed to ratify their contracts, and according to the VR agreement, each time contracts come up, one member of either the Bridgewater Town Council or the Raynham Selectmen joins that to vote. It alternates. One time it's Bridgewater, the next time it's Raynham. It was our turn. Obviously, we only have one vote. They have 8, so we can't say too much anyway, but it was basically their 4 unions, each with a 1-year agreement, 2% increase. Basically, they did what we did with police, our police contract and our clerical, to extend it, being a difficult year for 1 year. It's retroactive to July 1st, expires June 30th, and then they're going to start negotiating all over again. But it was a unanimous vote, and we did attend that. Also, just from information for that, they've moved ahead very well with the new Bridgewater building. They have now got a contractor, actually came in $12 million less than they were expecting, which is really good. They've gone out to bond and got a really good deal on their bond. They've already started, the contractor's already started clearing the site, and the anticipated opening for the building to be complete is July 8th. They have it down to the day, July 8th of 2022. So it's, as the superintendent said, that's really needed, because once that's ready, there's going to be a lot of moving parts. They're going to move, actually, the preschool program for the district that is currently located at the Raynham Middle School will be moving into that new building in Bridgewater. The grades kindergarten, grade 1 and 2 in Bridgewater, currently at the old high school, will be moving into the new building. Grade 3 will be joining grades 4 and 5 at the Williams, and the old high school will then become grades 5, 6, 7, and 8, I believe. So 7 and 8 will be moving out of the high school. So a lot of moving parts will be going on. The school committee and administration have yeoman's work to do, but good news as far as that's moving along. And that's all that I have. Next we have correspondence. We have a dangerous dog, a letter that we've received from a resident on Whippoorwill, and I believe we usually set a hearing
Yes,
date.
I would motion to set it for 2 weeks out, Madam Chair, which would be February 16.
Okay. Motion to do that. Second by Mr. Chavo. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. You will notify them and our animal control officer, Mr. Waters. And any press time? Anyone from the press wish to join us at this time? Emergency business, Mr. Pacheco.
None.
Mr.
None.
Chavo, I have none. Citizen and community input. Does anyone in a remote land wish to address us this evening? If so, please just give us your name and address for the minutes.
Mike is saying nobody.
And we are clear. So then I'm looking for a motion to approve the Town of Raynham invoice and payroll warrants dated February 2nd, 2021. Motion by
So moved.
Mr. Pacheco, second by Mr. Chavo. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. I'm looking for a motion to approve the Raynham Police invoice and payroll warrants.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Chavo, I will second, and roll call vote.
Abstain.
Mr. Pacheco abstains.
Aye.
Mr. Chavo, I vote aye, so it's a 2 in favor, 1 abstention, and it passes. And Mr. Pacheco, your
Motion to adjourn, sign the bills, no business thereafter.
The motion to adjourn at 8:13 p.m., second by Mr. Chavo. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. We are adjourned. Thank you for joining us. Have a good, safe week. Stay well. Thank you.